Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? And welcome to this morning's edition of Contracting Chatter. Grab your business partner, the contractor's notebook, and your favorite beverage. My camera isn't set up right. There we go. There we go. I hope you had a restful weekend, you recharged, and you're ready to conquer the week and take the week by storm. How are you doing today? How are you doing this morning? As we know, today is day one of the Democratic National Convention, and I'm going to cover the Democratic National Convention not from a political aspect, but actually just to see, because allegedly she's released her platform, and we're going to see what her platform will do for businesses. So we're going to get a peek at her platform, what it's going to do for businesses. Hopefully, it's going to be good for businesses. We're going to see what government contracting is going to look like under her administration. Well, and the way you can see that is what her spending goals are going to look like based upon what her agenda or what her focus is going to be, especially in the first quote 90 days. What she's saying she's going to tackle as soon as she takes office. But one of the things I wanted to talk about this morning, and this is based upon a conversation I saw on a video. I'm trying to remember where I saw the video at. Somewhere was the conversation around who gets to call themselves or classify themselves as a small business owner. That is a title that a lot of people use. I'm a business owner, I'm a small business owner. However, they're not necessarily using that correctly. So let's talk about the three designations. There's self employed, then there's the small business owner, and then there's the corporation. Self employed is self explanatory, it's just you. You don't have any employees, it is just you in your business. You typically report your salary on your 1040. You may earn a 1099 from your company. You are considered self employed. Even if you have an LLC, if you're a single member LLC, you are still considered by the IRS to be self employed. And that is why you are allowed, or during the tax season, your income flows from Schedule C onto line, I believe it's a line 35 or 40, onto a 1040 tax form. So you're self employed. when it's just you in the business and you occasionally hire somebody and you're only 1099ing them. To be considered a small business, you have to have employees. And it's usually you have between 1 to 10 employees, and they're full-time employees. And that's per the IRS. Usually you're electing to be taxed as an S corp. Now, small businesses can be partnerships. Small businesses are multi-membered LLCs. What does that mean? Multi-member LLCs are comprised of more than one person. So that's an LLC that's owned by another company, or LLC that's owned by more than one individual. And then everybody knows what a corporation is. A corporation has, your bylaws. You have more than 20 full-time employees. You typically have more than one business location. You do not have to have more than one, but you usually do. And corporations own other businesses. What happens in common vernacular, or when people speak, they're taking words and languages from other industry and incorporating in everyday language. We're taking this, I'm a business owner, and we're spreading it around without going into subtle nuances. And there's nothing wrong with saying I work independently or I work for myself. I'm not downplaying the self-employed person. I'm self-employed. What I'm saying is there is a difference between somebody who is self-employed and somebody who's, quote, a small business. Oh, let me correct myself. I'm self-employed within one of my businesses because in that business, it's just me. Let me correct my language. In one of my business, I'm the only person in that business full time. So within that business, I'm self-employed. In my other business, I'm a small business founder because it's more than just me in that business. I have more than one business. And because people feel as though we attach more honorifics to one term over the other, we tend to want to say I'm an entrepreneur or a small business owner. And also we tend to use the terms interchangeably. Because what I noticed on that video was people arguing they're the same things, and they're not. They're not even taxed the same. Small businesses bear the burden. They're not taxed the same. They're not treated the same. Small businesses have employee taxes because they have employees. They're treated differently by the IRS because their tax filings are different. Self-employed, you have it's on the 1040 form. Small businesses tend to have a W-3 versus a W-2. There are just several differences in how they're treated. But because in common vernacular, we tend to use the terms interchangeably, it causes some confusion. Now, can you go from self-employed to small business? Yes, that's when you start to hire people. That's when you start to put in place policies and procedures. That is when you upscale. and you start to scale your business. As one of my coaches say, you start to implement a bench or support system into your business. Is when you make that distinction and make that business. Good morning, everybody. Well, thank you for joining me this morning. So you can start off with self-employed, move to small business, or you can start off as self-employed and jump straight to corporate. It depends upon what your vision is for your business. The problem is most people or most individuals skip vision casting when they set up their business. You know, everybody wants to do a vision board for everything except their business. They think they can run their business in their head and they don't ever want to transfer it from their head onto a piece of paper. And I'm not even talking about a business plan. I'm just talking about just basic, this is where I'm starting, this is where I want to be in a year, and this is where I'm going to be in 5 years. They want to do that for everything except their business. And that's one of the things we're going to do in the contracting challenge. We're going to map this thing out and get it out your head. We're trying to be government contractors and you're stumbling and falling and you're becoming accidental contractors because you never created a plan. You never created a plan for your business, and then you never created a plan for your government contracting. So you're becoming frustrated with the process because you never mapped out your process. Because it goes back to you never delineated when you were going to stop being self-employed and go to a corporate structure. Or you just assumed you were one because you said you was one and you never started functioning as one. Does that make sense this morning? So we're going to talk about functioning as one. You just can't say it, you have to be it. This is something my pastor talked, he said it in his sermon. And when he said it in his sermon, I was like, this is the problem people are having in business. And he said this. You're responsible for the task and the outcome. But how are you responsible for the task and the outcome when people never bother to plot out the steps? You know, I did 2 podcast episodes. You know, I have a podcast called Contractors Conversation. When I talk about you can't skip steps in the process. And I have an ebook out called Stages in Government Contracting. People don't even understand their responsibility and the stages that there are. So if you're responsible for the tasks, but you don't know what the tasks are, and you're responsible for the outcomes, but you haven't decided what outcomes you want, then how are you being responsible? You are responsible, but you haven't decided what you're being responsible for because you've never bothered to write down or decide or figure out what you're going to be responsible for. So you as the business founder have created this entity that you're responsible for and never decided what ultimately or what outcomes you ultimately are going to be responsible for. I want you to understand you need to be responsible for something. You just never figured out what it was going to be. You just said, I have a business, and boom, you opened your doors. And most of you have never gone beyond that. Or if you did, it was still nebulous. It was never concrete. And I understand, and then talking to people, people never made it concrete because when it's concrete, it's real. Now we get into mindset work. Because when you lay it down and say, I want to make 500,000 within the next 2 years, by 2 years, I want to have $500,000 in revenue, it becomes real. And sometimes people are afraid of the real. So if you never make 500,000 and you keep it in the back of your head somewhere and you never make 500,000, then you can't hold yourself responsible for not making it because you never made it a real goal. But then you get frustrated. And something else my pastor said, people are crying over their seed and then they miss the reaping of their harvest. And somebody saying, why are you talking about what your pastor said? Because it applies. People, and I've used this analogy before, you're planting seeds, but you're not tilling. Or you're planting the seed and tilling, and then you're forgetting to reap your harvest. Honey, it's time to reap the harvest. Know what season you're in. And if you need help figuring it out, I'm here. Some of you need to be registered for this challenge, and you need to register for the 90-day version of the challenge because you need help discerning what season you're in. The 30-day is the planting of the seed. By the time you get to the end of the 90-day, it's harvest time. I'm telling you what the challenge is. We're planting the seed. We're watering and tilling and doing all of that. And then by the end, at the end of the 90 days, it's harvest time. And if you're going for the larger contracts, and the larger contracts, I mean the federal contracts, the multi-year contracts, by the end of the 90 days, you're submitting that gargantuous proposal. You may not be harvesting in terms of a contract award, but your harvest is the fact that you've actually submitted your first, second, or third proposal. So either way, you've harvested. Do you get where I'm coming from? So no matter when you're listening to this recording, I don't care if you're listening to it August 19th, 2024, or if you're listening to this in August 19th, 3024, there is a harvest season. Are you ready to harvest? Are you ready to harvest, or are you just going to keep over-tilling and killing your seed? The choice is yours. Because you can also over-harvest and kill your seed. You can overwater. You can over-till. You can put the tiller in the soil after you put the seed in, and that tiller overwork the seed. Some seeds aren't supposed to be planted real deep. It's supposed to be right at the top of the soil. Hey, Bonds. Some seed belongs at the top of the soil. You're just supposed to sprinkle it. And then as it germinates, and to germinate means as the seed activates, it dig deep to the determined soil. Some seeds you're supposed to dig a hole and then plant it and cover it back up. Some seeds have to be exposed to sunlight. But honey, you just don't know because a lot of people don't even know what seed they're planting. And somebody's saying she's running this analogy to death, but I have to run it to death because some people learn it or catch the message at a different rate. So if you caught it, write down your notes and wait for the others to catch it at whatever rate they have to catch it at. Just because you're on the bus and you're at the front of the bus, that's not for you to decide the rate that the person at the back of the bus caught it. Just be glad that you're at the front of the bus. Moving on. So with that, I'm going to wind this segment up with this. My mentor said something. Now, I have a mentor and a pastor. You know, everybody knows I have a mentor and a pastor, and I have multiple coaches because the coaches coach me in different areas. But my mentor said this yesterday, and I felt this was a powerful statement. You can lose something superior chasing something inferior. And often people are chasing the inferior things in business because they refuse to craft that superior plan. I'm going to say it again. They are losing the superior, or they're chasing the inferior because they refuse to craft that superior plan. So with that, I'm inviting you back tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another installment of Contracting Chatter. Tomorrow, I will be talking about what I've gleaned from day one of the DNC from a business perspective. What are they saying? How will it affect your business depending on who lands in Pennsylvania Avenue? And there's just a whole lot going on geopolitically. So there are a lot of opportunities out there now if you're in position to take advantage of it. And there's a lot of opportunities out there now if you're able to position and pitch yourself. But we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So join me tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sign up for the Contractors Challenge. It's a paid challenge, and I'll talk about that tomorrow, and I'm going to drop a video describing the challenge, what the challenge looked like. And as I said earlier, there's actually two versions of the challenge. There's a 30-day and a 90-day. And I'm going to detail what both versions look like, and you decide how you want to go. So have an amazing day. And remember, there's a compliance factor to everything you do. And a non-compliance is expensive. So learn the rules of engagement for whichever industry you're working in. Apply them in your business. And make sure that you stay compliant with yourself in business. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'm Luciana Turner, your host and the founder of the LT&A Consulting Group. I'll see you tomorrow morning.